LeBron James spends over $1 million a year on his body. Not his equipment, not his coaching staff, his body. Sleep specialists, nutritionists, cryotherapy, detailed recovery protocols between games. He treats his physical and mental readiness as the primary asset of his career, because without it, none of the skill he's developed over 20 years means anything on the court. Trading is mental, they say. You sit at a desk. You don't need to be in shape to click a mouse. But that thinking is exactly why most traders perform inconsistently. Because the same principle that drives elite athletic performance drives elite trading performance. The understanding that the quality of your decisions is directly tied to the quality of your life and preparation. That what you do before game time determines what you're capable of during it. That peak performance is not something you summon on demand. It's something you build systematically in all the hours when the market is closed. The best traders in the world don't think just like analysts. They also think like athletes. And today we're going into exactly what that means and what it looks like when you apply the athlete mindset to every part of your trading career. Peak performance is not something you produce when it matters. It is something you build when it doesn't seem to matter. In the preparation, in the practice, in the off-season work that no one sees and that produces no immediate visible result. Every elite athlete knows this. The hours in the gym when the season hasn't started yet. The film study the night before a game when everyone else is asleep. The dietary discipline that extends through the off-season, not because a game is tomorrow, but because the body that performs in March is being built in October. None of this shows up on the highlight reel. All of it determines what's possible on game day. Traders have a game day too. It's called the market open. And what you're capable of at 9:30 a.m., the clarity of your analysis, the sharpness of your execution, the stability of your emotional state when a trade moves against you, is determined almost entirely by what you did before that moment. Your sleep the night before, your pre-market routine that morning, your ongoing work on your strategy and your psychology during the hours and days the market was closed. Most traders focus almost entirely on game day. They spend their energy on live trading, the entries, the exits, the real-time decisions, and give minimal attention to the preparation that determines how well those decisions are made. Elite athletes do the opposite. They obsess over the preparation. The game is where the preparation is expressed. Every elite athlete is meticulous about one thing above all else: showing up to competition in the best possible physical and mental state. And the work that produces that state happens long before the game starts. They keep a strict schedule. Sleep at consistent times. Wake at consistent times. Not because they enjoy the rigidity, but because the body performs better on a predictable rhythm. They eat to perform, not for taste or convenience, but for energy, cognitive clarity, and recovery. They manage their physical health proactively, not reactively, addressing small issues before they become injuries that take them off the court. And they do all of this not just for the next game, but for the career. An elite athlete thinks in seasons and years, not just matches. Every decision they make about how they treat their body and their mind is evaluated against the question: does this help me perform at the highest level, not just today, but across a career that lasts a decade or more? Traders need to think the same way. The quality of your decisions at the platform is directly connected to the quality of your physical and mental state when you sit down. A sleep-deprived prefrontal cortex makes worse risk decisions. Elevated cortisol from stress, poor nutrition, or inadequate recovery suppresses the rational thinking that trading demands. A trader who shows up to market open having slept 5 hours, skipped breakfast, and is carrying unresolved stress from outside the market is not operating at the same cognitive level as one who has treated the preparation with the same seriousness an athlete brings to theirs. And just like an athlete who sits out a game with an injury, not because they want to, but because playing injured makes the injury worse and compromises the team, a trader needs to be willing to step back from the market when they're not in the right state. Not every day deserves to be traded. Some days, the most professional decision is to recognize that your mental state is compromised, close the platform, and preserve the capital that would have been at risk in the hands of a version of yourself that wasn't ready to manage it. No elite athlete steps into competition without practice. And not just the casual going through the motions kind, the deliberate, structured, high repetition kind that builds specific skills under conditions that mimic the real thing as closely as possible. A basketball player doesn't practice free throws because free throws are fun. They practice them because in the fourth quarter of a tight game, under pressure, with everything on the line, the shot needs to be automatic. The muscle memory needs to be so deeply ingrained that the pressure of the moment doesn't disrupt the execution. The practice removes the decision from the moment, because the moment is not the time to be thinking about technique. Backtesting is the trader's equivalent of practice. Going through historical price action, identifying setups that match your criteria, tracking entries and exits across hundreds of examples. This is the work that builds the pattern recognition and strategic confidence that live trading demands. It's how you validate that your edge is real before you put capital behind it. It's how you internalize what your A-grade setup actually looks like, so that when it appears in a live session, recognition is immediate and execution is clean. Most retail traders skip this entirely or do it superficially. They see a strategy they like, put real money on it after a handful of paper trades, and then wonder why their execution is inconsistent under live market conditions. The answer is that they went straight to game day without the practice sessions. The pressure of real money compressed their decision-making before their pattern recognition was deep enough to handle it. Elite athletes also understand the off-season, the period between competitive seasons where the foundation for the next season's performance is built. For traders, the off-season equivalent is the continuous work done during market hours that aren't spent trading and after the session closes. Reviewing trades, studying price action, refining criteria, improving the emotional regulation that live trading demands. The trader who spends an hour after every session reviewing their journal is doing off-season work. The one who closes the platform and switches off until tomorrow is showing up to next season without having done the practice that would have made them better. One of the most important psychological differences between elite athletes and average competitors is how they process losing. And it's a difference that translates directly into trading psychology. The average competitor experiences a loss as failure. The result is the verdict: they lost, which means something went wrong, which means they weren't good enough. That framing makes every loss a threat to identity, and the emotional response to it is proportional to that threat. Frustration, avoidance, the desperate need to win the next one to restore the narrative. Elite athletes process losses differently. Not because they don't care about winning, they care intensely, but because they've developed a relationship with losing that extracts value from it. Rather than just absorbing the pain of it, the framework that the best coaches in sport have used for decades is: you either win or you learn and improve. There is no losing, only outcomes, and every outcome contains information. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. He used the rejection as data, proof that he needed to work harder, train more specifically, develop parts of his game that weren't good enough yet. The loss didn't confirm his limitations. It identified where the work needed to go. And that response to failure is as much a part of what made him the greatest player of his era as any physical ability he had. This is the exact mindset shift that transforms a trader's relationship with losing trades. A stop out on a valid setup is not a failure. It is a data point, one of the losing trades your system expected to have. If the trade was valid, the loss is information about variance, not about your edge. If the trade was flawed, the loss is information about where your process needs improvement. Either way, it contains something useful. Either way, the response is analysis, not emotion. The trader who approaches every loss with the question, "What does this tell me?" instead of, "How do I get this back?" is operating from the athlete's framework. And over a career of hundreds of trades, that single shift in how losses are processed produces a compounding improvement in both psychology and performance that is almost impossible to overstate. Here's one more thing elite athletes understand that most traders don't, and it changes how they think about improvement across a long career. At the beginning of any skill development journey, improvements are large and fast. The beginner basketball player adds 20 points to their free throw percentage in a month. The new trader cuts their average loss significantly by learning basic risk management. Progress feels rapid because the gap between current performance and competent performance is large. But at the elite level, that changes entirely. An NBA player who already shoots 85% from the free throw line cannot add 20 percentage points in a month. The ceiling of improvement has compressed. The remaining gains are incremental. 0.5% here, a slight adjustment in release timing there, a marginal improvement in pre-shot routine consistency. And the elite athlete values those increments more, not less, than the large gains of the early development phase. Because they understand something that beginners don't. At the elite level, everyone is good. What separates the best from the very good is the accumulation of marginal gains. Hundreds of tiny improvements, none individually significant, that compound across a career into a measurable performance edge. The British cycling team famously built a dynasty around this principle. The aggregation of marginal gains across every conceivable aspect of performance, from bike aerodynamics to the type of pillow their riders slept on. For traders, this means that the pursuit of small improvements, sharpening entry criteria by one condition, improving position sizing by a fraction when hitting a capital milestone, understanding how your strategy performs in different market environments, is not tedious housekeeping. It is the work of elite performance. The strategy that wins 57% instead of 55% because of 2 years of marginal refinements is not incrementally better. At scale, across thousands of trades, it is dramatically better. And the trader who chases those increments, who treats every small improvement as worth pursuing, is building the kind of compound advantage that eventually separates them from everyone who stopped improving because their performance was already good enough.